I appear to have hit it with the wrong side of the stick, so if that sounded off, you're not crazy. Hello and welcome to Orange Coast Unitarian Universalist Church. My name is Joel Kilshoer and I am your worship associate today. I'm joined by Beth Syverson, our Director of Music Ministries, and welcoming you this morning. Our minister, Reverend Sean Wilshire, is not leading the service today, but she has a special message for you.
Good morning, everyone. Members, friends, visitors, hello. I'm Reverend Sean Wilshire. And, you know, our speaker today is the wonderful Beth Syverson, who is our Director of Music Ministries. What you may not know, and what many of us are very sad about, is that she's going to be leaving us in the fall. But the wonderful thing is that what you get to hear today is you get to understand why she's leaving us, because this is a calling that she has. Truly a calling, and I'm so excited for her and for all those she's insisting in understanding the challenges and joys of adoption. She has so much to offer the world, and I'm delighted that she is following her heart, though I know she's leaving part of it here with us. So listen this morning to this amazing woman's wisdom, and you'll agree she has to do this. Have an absolutely enlightening service.
We'd also like to recognize the many volunteers that have helped put this service together today. And our guest speaker is Beth Syverson. I'd like to take a moment to recognize that our church property rests on a Hachiman and Tongva land. As Unitarian Universalists, we have many different beliefs, but we are one loving community. We are bound together, not by a common set of rules or beliefs, but rather a covenant. A covenant is simply a promise that whatever our beliefs, we accept one another and encourage each other in spiritual growth. We affirm that all life has inherent value and that all existence is interconnected. We strive for justice and compassion in our deeds and relationships, and we are committed to creating a welcoming community without regard to the traits that sometimes divide people. To our roomers, we invite you to silence your cell phones. For our Zoomers, we invite you to say hello in the chat. I want to extend a special welcome to visitors. If you are seeking a spiritual home, we hope that you will find it here. Later in this service, we will have an opportunity for you to introduce yourself if you'd like to do so. We began our worship with the lighting of our chalice. And this morning, I'd like to invite Kate. Kate is 9 years old, she plays softball, and she loves to swim. Okay. As they light our chalice, let us say our unison affirmation together. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law, to dwell together in peace, to seek truth and love, to help one another. This we affirm together.
Hey, Kate. All right. Good morning, everyone. Our opening song is We Are. It's by Yze Barnwell. She's actually a Unitarian Universalist, and you might also know her from the group Sweet Honey in the Rock. Please rise in body or spirit as we sing our opening song. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. We are our grandmother's prayers, and we are our grandfather's dreamings. We are the breath of our ancestors. We are the Spirit of God. We are mothers of courage and brothers of time. We are daughters of dusk And I am so grateful that you are all here and that you are letting me talk to you this morning about adoption. It is a complex subject, and in our culture, the dominant narrative is it's a beautiful gift for everyone involved, and it is just so lovely, and everyone should just be so grateful and happy about this whole thing. But I'm going to challenge that narrative a bit and provide some ways that we as a congregation can be more supportive and sensitive to the adoptees in our midst. And by the way, there are a lot of adoptees in our church, a lot. And let's see how many. If you're willing to raise your hand for any of these answers, I invite you to join in raising your hand. And if you're on Zoom, you can use the reaction button to raise your hand. So on Zoom, people can see the hands raised as well. So in the room or on Zoom, raise your hand if you yourself are an adoptee. Jeffrey and Stacy and Kate. I don't know. I can't see the Zoomers. Yeah, ready to go. All right. Keep those hands up. And if you are an adoptive or a foster parent, raise your hand. If you are a birth or first parent, raise your hand. A birth parent or a first parent that relinquished a child. And if you have relatives who are adopted, or grandchildren, aunts, uncles, cousins, siblings, or if you have friends or clients or patients or congregation members who are adopted. Look, we all have our hands up. You may put them down. So as you can see, we are all affected by adoption and have influence over the adoption system. So this morning, I hope to challenge those cultural norms a bit. Hang on tight. I promise I will lead you through this with compassion and empathy toward our adopted community members. Now I'm going to go change hats. I'm going to be a singer over here. Just one moment, please. Okay, and as part of this service, I am thrilled to present the world premiere of 2 songs from a brand new musical called For the Record. It's about adoption and particularly about adoption records, which I don't know if y'all know are often sealed in different states. So adoptees, even as an adult, have no access to their original birth certificate. Anyway, this musical is written by an adoptee, Rich Erlob from Colorado. He's a legislative advocate for adoptee reforms, such as allowing adult adoptees to have access to these original birth certificates. The first song we're going to sing is called Real Mother, and it depicts a scene in 2 different locations. So Jolynn will be playing Blanca, the birth mom who just relinquished her child, and I will be singing the part of Eliana, the adoptive mom who just took her baby that she will name Joshua home for the first time. Racing, so happy, embracing my son, my little man. And though we have just met, I'm so thrilled that I get to hold his little hand.
My heart is racing, someone is replacing the role that I should fulfill. I have no good choice now, I have no real voice now, I signed against my will. Am I a real mother because there's another who gives him what I could not? How will I explain this, that I will remain his true mother? I am and I'm not. I leave him to strangers, God, protect him from dangers. I will not know his name.
Your secret is hidden, you will be forbidden to learn from whom he came.
He'll never know how much I loved him first.
He'll never know how much
pray that he'll feel loved, never cursed.
I'll raise him to be smart and free from guile. Am I a real mother because there's another who gives him what I could not? How will I explain this, that I will remain his true mother? I am and I'm not. Never will he know, never can I show this fear I have inside. This document's a lie.
Never will I see what he means to me. How can I ever heal this haunting grief I feel?
I am his real mother, although there's another who gives him what I could not. I'll never explain this, I'll always remain his true mother.
Who is and is not.
I'll never explain this.
I'll always remain his one mother
Is and is not.
who is
And is
not.
And now I would like to introduce Stacy Smith, who you know if you are around this church at all. She's in the choir. She has written our offertory response song, and she is an adoptee. And I've asked her to read the Time for All Ages story today.
Oh, goodness gracious. How about those Chiefs, huh? Adoption is both. I was adopted. I am adoptee. I can be happy, light, and carefree. Adoption is happy, and adoption is sad. It can make my heart hurt or make it feel glad. There are days I miss people and have lots of questions. There are other days I want to sing and dance about my family connections. Adoption made my family, and I am an adoptee. That is one thing that makes me me. My adoption is mine, and my story is my own. It's okay for some of my story to be unknown. It's okay to talk or keep my story inside. If I want to share, I can decide. Adoptees are strong. We carry a lot. We can be teachers, actors, or astronauts. Adoption may feel like a messy storm. Adoption may feel so fun and warm. If adoption is both happy and sad, then it's okay to feel both glad and mad. Adoption is both pink and blue. Pink and blue, both are true.
And now I believe Jacques is going to light the children's chalice and lead the children, or Judy, Reverend Judy, is going to light the children's chalice and lead the children to their classes. We hold you in our love as you go, as you go. May your heart be at peace as you go. To nurture the spark of your precious life. We hold you in our love as you go.
Hi, everyone.
I'm Nina, and together with my partner Janine, we are proud parents to two adopted children. They're 14 and 9 at this stage. That's our family up there on the left. 5 years ago, Beth gave me a copy of this book. She walked up to me in church and gave me a copy of this book. It's called The Primal Wound. I'm sure we're going to hear more about it today, by Nancy Verrier. And if anything that's said today about this that resonates, if anyone wants a copy of this, please ask me for it. I've given out many over the last 5 years. So what is the primal wound? The primal wound is a theory that explains how losing their biological mothers at birth affects people deep down in their minds and bodies. When a baby is taken away from their biological mother through adoption, it creates a wound. This wound can show up as feelings of loss, not fully trusting others, problems with emotions and behavior, and struggles in forming strong relationships with important people in their lives. This wound can also have a lasting impact on how adoptees see themselves, their self-esteem, and how they value themselves. I asked my 9-year-old, Kate, who you all just saw today, if I could share this other picture. It's a photo of Kate with her biological mother, Brianna. Kate and Brianna were separated when Kate was born. They have met a few times, and we support and encourage these meetings. There have been times, especially the last few years, when Kate feels sad for no obvious reason. As I've delved into this concept of the primal wound, I came to comprehend that Kate's sadness may be attributed to her loss of Brianna. It's a profound longing for her biological mother that resides within her. I frequently remind Kate that because she is from Brianna and that she is made of Brianna, she will forever be connected to her. By acknowledging this sense of emptiness, Kate has found better ways to cope with her emotions. Although I lack my son's permission to share his personal story, I have found solace and guidance in this book and theory as we navigate ways to support and prepare him during his teenage years, which have not been easy the last year. This book has become my compass, particularly in light of his struggles with self-esteem and identity development. I am forever grateful for Beth for introducing the book to me when she did. So in all fairness, it's important to acknowledge that there is criticism of this theory. And I do not claim that the primal wound applies universally to all adoptees or adoption experiences. I'm speaking solely from what I have observed in my own children, and I am committed to doing everything in my power to ensure that their outlook remains filled with hope and the potential for healing. Thank you for letting me share these words.
Thank you, Nina. I'd like to lead you all in a simple visualization. So if you're willing, take a deep breath and either close your eyes or lower your gaze, however you feel comfortable. Now imagine you are asleep in your bed at home. Picture yourself all comfy cozy with whoever you sleep with, your partner, your child, your pet, or a special blanket. Just picture something or someone. Now, try to bring to your senses, what does it feel like to be cuddled up like that? What does that special person, animal, or object look like there next to you? What do they smell like? Imagine running your fingers along their skin, fur, or surface. What do they feel like? Can you hear them snoring or breathing maybe? And now, imagine that when you wake up, you would discover that a magician has removed your beloved person, pet, or object and replaced it with another one, a different one. It might even be a better one. Maybe the new one doesn't have bad breath, or they don't snore. Or maybe it has softer edges. Now imagine how you would feel if that were to happen to you. What would your initial response be as a grown adult person? What would you do or say? Would you feel lucky, especially if you got a better model after all? Or would you feel confused, sad, alone, afraid, angry? Would you try to run away to find your lost love? Or would you cry? Would you try to punch the newcomer? Or would you just feel like giving up? Now imagine you make it out of bed on that first morning with this new bedmate, and your house is filled with strangers who are celebrating that this transformation has occurred. They're throwing a party in your honor and lining up to give you hugs. They are so grateful that you came into their lives. And now I'm going to add a twist to this imagined scene. Now go back in time until you're an infant. You don't know any words yet, and you don't even have thoughts or memories of a time before this happened. You have no idea what's going on. The only ways you can communicate are to cry or to shut down. You are an instinctual, feeling being that has to process this great loss of your favorite, comfy, cozy person, pet, or object all by yourself, while everyone else around you is throwing a party and telling you that you should feel lucky. So take a deep breath and come back into the present and into our room. Now I invite you to consider the thoughts and feelings that visualization brought up while Stacy reads a poem. This poem is by an Australian adoptee named Michael Grenfell. It's called, I'm so sorry. It's called Goodbye, Hello.
We never got to say hello before you said goodbye. We never got to live in truth before you lived a lie. Decades long of searching have been my life's refrain. And when I finally found you, you were simply gone again. The child that was unwanted, forsaken, and denied, disallowed a mother's love or a father's pride. Sorrow stained and broken down, moored in a sea of pain, left to drift as dead, clinging to my mother's name. You choose to quickly flee and deny your promises, packed them amongst your things, and left everything unsaid. What you failed to understand, to fathom, or to see was that you left me behind with a pain mythology. The story I was given and so adamantly told was part of the exchange with what was bought and sold. This never settled with me because it wasn't true. It left me with a heart of hurt because there wasn't you. My role was now a product to fill a social need, to hide a bastard born or an infertility. A mother is not replaceable, and neither is a son. A father's not exchangeable, or maybe I'm wrong.
Join in with us whenever you're ready. We're going to sing different parts, and as usual, you pick your favorite and sing along with us. Breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out. When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When I breathe out, I'll breathe out love. When I breathe in, I'll breathe in peace. When
I wonder how many of you were here at Orange Coast when we brought our son Joey back from Japan 19 years ago. Oh my gosh, look at all those hands. Thank you for being here still. You all along have been so supportive of us as a family, and you have continued supporting us through some very difficult terrain the last few years. Our son is 19 now, and he has struggled mightily with addiction and suicidality for over 5 years. My wife, Jan, and I are walking beside him as he is seeking his healing path, while we are working on our own personal growth and healing. We've realized that this is a marathon, not a sprint, and we're here for it. By the way, I ask Joey often if it's still okay to share our family story, and he answers enthusiastically yes. He wants our story to help other families. If any of you that just raised your hand remember what a busy boy Joey was when he was younger, I will never forget one Sunday when his dad, my ex-husband, was supposed to be holding him, and he was about 3, and I was up here playing the piano. We were at the other church, though, before we moved here. But Joey got loose from him, which often happened, and he came down the aisle and crawled under the piano and hung onto my legs while I was trying to lead a song. Does anyone remember that? Maybe okay, I remember. When Joey was little, I didn't know anything about adoption. I was just grateful that he came into our lives. I have always thought he was delightful. He was such a smiley baby and toddler that he would get attention from strangers all the time. I sometimes felt like a dull rock when I was with him because he was like a sparkly jewel, so vibrant and energetic. And in fact, his Japanese name is Genki, which means vibrant and full of life. That's our boy. Now looking back, Joey's energetic behavior and people-pleasing modes are probably trauma responses from being adopted, or more specifically from being relinquished. He was extremely friendly and easygoing as a kid because in his little brain, he didn't want to be left again. Please love me and don't leave me. Because it's that loss of the birth mother, that major separation, that is the primal wound. In our opening song, We sang about our identity within a genetic lineage. We are our grandmother's prayers, and we are our grandfather's dreamings. We are the breath of our ancestors. It's no small thing to sever that spiritual and physical connection. I grew up thinking nurture was more important than nature, but now I view them both as extremely influential. For decades, adoptive parents were told to just take this baby home and raise it as if they were your own. They won't know a difference. That's pretty much what we tried to do. Generations before me tried to hide out-of-wedlock pregnancies and adoptions through secrets and deceptions. Remember in the 50s, 60s, and 70s when young pregnant women would go visit their aunt in France for a few months and then come home without their child as if nothing had happened. When we adopted in 2004, the culture had shifted to celebrating adoption, and intercountry and transracial adoptions had become much more common since the Korean War. So I knew there was nothing shameful about creating a family through adoption, and we didn't keep it secret, and I was so proud of Joey. But I didn't think about how adoption felt from his perspective, just from my own. Now that I know better, I am trying to do better, and I'm trying to help the culture shift a bit from our understanding of adoption trauma. Because when adoption trauma, that primal wound, doesn't have the opportunity to see the light of day, the adoptee internalizes the feelings they have, which often cause them to feel like they are unworthy. Remember that visualization we did earlier? Imagine those negative feelings that brought up for you: anxiety, sadness, anger, confusion, and now view it through the lens of a developing child whose number one goal in life is safety and security. You can see how that primal wound could affect everything. Once when Joey was about 7, he was having a really rough day, and he told me, "Mom, I'm just sad because my birth mom threw me away in the trash." Ugh, exactly, that's what I said. And I didn't understand adoption trauma. or connective parenting at the time, and I reacted defensively and what I thought was lovingly, and I said, oh no, honey, your birth mom didn't throw you away. She loved you so much. She took care of making arrangements so we could take care of you, and we love you so much. See, everybody loves you. It's all good, and you don't need to be sad. But do you see what that did to my 7-year-old? He realized he can't talk to me about all of the things about adoption. I wasn't able to hold that both and. That Adoption is Both book hadn't been written yet. When Joey was little, the adoptions were celebrating this gift that was adoption and being grateful for the tummy mummy that brought you into the world, and it was all just happy, happy. And because he couldn't talk it through with me or a therapist or another adoptee, he found other ways to cope with those strong feelings. He found nicotine and cannabis in 8th grade and discovered that they are very effective at numbing his emotions and making him feel better, at least at first. And he has struggled with a serious polysubstance addiction ever since. Did you know that adopted people are 43% more likely to have a substance use disorder in their lifetime compared to their non-adopted peers? Now, if I had known that statistic, I'd like to think I would have provided Joey more support when he was younger, and at the very least been more alert when adolescence came along. I found out about the primal wound when an acquaintance of mine saw me posting on Facebook about the struggles we were having with Joey when he was 15. He was running away, self-harming, and having frequent suicidal ideation. It was absolute chaos there for a while. Well, this friend, Rowan, is an adult adoptee who has worked on her own adoption trauma as an adult. And she courageously said, "Hey, Beth, isn't Joey adopted?" And I said, "Yeah, what about it?" And she said, well, you might want to look into it. And she suggested I read The Primal Wound and then find an adoption therapist and join adoption Facebook groups. It was a really tough pill to swallow at first, but I'm so grateful she was courageous enough to give me a heads up. That's why I gave Nina that book, passing it along. Otherwise, I probably would have just pathologized or shamed Joey for his addiction and mental health issues, which would be the very last things an adopted person needs. So I read books and articles about adoption trauma. I found a therapist for myself and for Joe. I joined every group I could find. I watched films, and I did a deep dive into adoption's effects on adoptees. In fact, last night I spent 3 hours on a course for transracial adoptive parents in Australia. It was really late at night because Australia, way different time zone. I'm still definitely working on this deeply. In addition to the 43% higher rate of addiction that I told you earlier, adoptees are also 4 times as likely to attempt suicide. And they have a greater propensity to have ADHD, which Joey also has. And they make up 30 to 40% of youth in residential treatment centers. And adoptees are only 2% of the population, around there, around 2%. So 30 to 40% of our kids are ending up in 30 to 40% of the kids in treatment centers are adopted. That is a staggering statistic. Now, obviously, not every adoptee will have a rough time. None of these statistics are 100%. But I think it's helpful to be aware of the extra layers of difficulty that many adoptees have. Now, think back once again to that visualization experiment we did earlier in this service. Now, to add a few extra layers of difficulty to that scenario, imagine you are an adoptee who wakes up with adoptive parents of a different race and culture, who speak a different language than what you've been hearing, who eat totally different food than what you've been tasting and smelling, and who flew you across the world to start a new life in another country. Well, that's what we did to Joey at 7.5 months old. Are you starting to see how traumatic that must be for a baby or young child? Now, of course, I am extremely grateful for Joey, and I don't regret having him in my life, and I think he would say the same thing. But I just wish I had been more aware of his relinquishment trauma and how it would be amplified by his interracial, intercountry adoption. Not to mention my divorce from his dad when he was 4. I didn't handle that very well, knowing what I know now. So what are we supposed to do about adoption? Clearly, there will probably always be a need for adoption. We can't just abolish it right now because there truly are some birth parents who are unable to parent. That said, many birth parents were coerced, especially young moms living in poverty and those involved with intercountry agencies in developing countries. But now that we know that adoption is both, how can we advocate for our adopted loved ones so they can have the best chances possible to have a healthy and fulfilling life? Well, if adoptive parents know from day one that their child will struggle with relinquishment trauma, no matter how great the adoptive parents are, I think the parents might find more tools to help their children deal with their issues. So much of this is just education and training, tools and resources, putting adoption trauma out in the open so everyone can participate in helping our adoptees heal. There are adoption competent therapists who do play therapy with very young children and those who help adoptees and adoptive parents and birth or first parents at all stages along their journey. I think it's imperative that adoptive parents and their support system, which is their extended family, friends, faith communities, and coworkers, become well-versed in best practices for adoptees. One of the major problems with adoption today in the US is the involvement of huge sums of money. Adoption and foster care is a multi-billion, with a B, dollar business in the US between lawyers, adoption agencies, and government systems that participate in this exchange. Do you think they want to broadcast how much trauma is involved in adoption? Do you think they want to put those dire statistics on a billboard advertising their service? No way, because if they did, people might think twice about getting involved, right? So instead, they convince hopeful adoptive parents that they can just create a family with a stranger's baby and everything will be just fine. Then as soon as their check goes through, they're done with them. They promise all sorts of training and ongoing support, but I hear from adoptive parents all the time how the social workers just don't return phone calls after the adoption is final. There are many resources available to help adoptees and adoptive families, but most of them are not through the adoption agencies themselves. They're through private organizations or nonprofits. Now, I know it's tough to think about adoptions being part of a giant money-driven industry. Adoptees have told me that they often feel commodified, and the whole thing is very transactional. The system is built that way, in the US at least. Some other countries are doing better than we are. Do you remember the leaked draft majority opinion that presaged the destruction of Roe v. Wade last year? Hard to forget that. Well, there was a line in a footnote of that leaked draft that read, "Nearly 1 million women were seeking to adopt children in 2002, whereas the domestic supply of infants relinquished at birth or within the first month of life and available to be adopted had become virtually non-existent." Did you catch that, domestic supply of infants? Yeah. I know many adoptees do not prefer to be commodified in ways like this, but it happens all the time. Adoption is a transaction, and for some, it's an excellent solution to replace abortion. But most adoptees I know do not view adoption in any way as a good solution to abortion. The opposite of abortion is parenting, not adoption. Most adoptees I know resent being the poster children of the pro-life movement. It'll be interesting to watch how this all plays out in the next few years, considering that 3 Supreme Court justices are adoptive parents, Roberts, Thomas, and Barrett. It all pulls together, doesn't it? So religion, racism, money, they're all inextricably entangled with adoption. I'm in a bunch of adoptive parent groups on Facebook. A common trope I hear from adoptive parents is something like this. I tell my adopted daughter that God knew exactly who she was supposed to be with, but she had to use another woman to get her here. I explained that I could not have children, so it was God's plan, and that God's plan is always perfect. Do you see how some religious people use God's will to validate their claims on another person's child and negate the lived experience of the grief and loss felt by both the birth parent and the adoptee? That child will grow up thinking God uses children like pawns in a game, just exchanging them willy-nilly to complete his plan. Or maybe they will see through it when they get older that some people just like to claim they know what God's will is, and they will have to sort out their feelings about how they fit into this family's plan. I know this sermon and this service has not been super cheery. It's not supposed to be. This butterflies and unicorns view of adoption has been the dominant trope in this country for decades, but that Pollyanna-style denial is hurting our adoptees. This is a better representation of adoption's truths. I would rather face the facts and courageously try to shift cultural norms So necessary adoptions can contain the support that adoptees need. So how can we as a congregation and community members help the adoptees in our midst? Remembering our church is chock full of them. Over half of our children who regularly attend our religious education programs are adopted. It doesn't hurt that our director of religious education has 4 of them. That kind of helps the numbers there, but. So we are already doing a great job of warmly welcoming our adopted children. And remember, they also grow up, they're also adults, with open arms and supporting the adoptive families like mine. So A+ on that. And here are a few other ways you might not have thought of. We can all talk openly about adoption, relinquishment, and developmental trauma. It's nothing to be ashamed of, and openness is always the best tactic. When in doubt, ask the adoptee themselves how they feel about whatever you're wondering about. Teachers and leaders should be aware of being inclusive with adoptees. I guarantee you this is not a problem with our Director of Religious Education as an adoptive mom, but out in the world we can avoid family tree type assignments that make children choose their adoptive family or their birth family. We can acknowledge that Mother's Day, Father's Day, and birthdays are fraught with complicated feelings for adopted families. We can refrain from calling adoptees lucky or asking them to be grateful for being adopted. No one would probably say that at this church, but elsewhere it's common to hear an adoptive parent say it was God's will for the child to come to their family. That kind of attitude discounts the part of God's plan that necessitated an unnatural separation from the adoptee's birth mother. So just don't say stuff like lucky and grateful to adoptees. We can support birth mothers with resources they need to parent, if at all possible. Many times adoption is used as a permanent solution for a temporary problem. If a teen or young adult becomes pregnant, they might not have the financial means to take care of their child right then. But instead of an adoption agency receiving many thousands of dollars from an adoptive family, how about we take that money and help the birth mother financially so the relinquishment doesn't have to happen? Another idea is to adopt the birth mother and their child together. And another idea is to be a temporary caretaker, maybe perhaps as a relative, until the birth mother finds healing for their mental health, addiction issues, or until she can get her on her feet financially. Make it a temporary guardianship instead of a permanent adoption that changes the birth certificate and like that. We can educate others when you hear insensitivity or bias about adoption. Remember, adoption is both. Just speak up. And interracial adoptees' race needs to be seen and nurtured. The notion of colorblindness is not the way to do things anymore. I think we all realize that. We need to embrace color equality, not colorblindness. We can acknowledge interracial adoptees' extra layers of challenges and offer support as an anti-racist. I know many in our church are involved in the anti-racist group, and here's another area where you can apply those same skills. And lastly, we can continue working for social justice in areas around race, poverty, and women's reproductive freedoms. Adoption is a giant system that is tied to other giant systems. It can feel overwhelming. But if we just each chip away in our own communities at whichever topic within those issues resonates most, we can make a difference. When Joey was in recovery a few years ago, he had the idea to start a podcast with me. He wanted to help other families with kids who were struggling. So we created Safe Home Podcast and talked about addiction, mental health, adoption, and diversity. A few weeks into that podcast adventure, Joey relapsed. And before he left, I said, well, what do you want me to do with the pod? Do you want me to hang on to it until you get back, or do you want me to keep going? And he asked me to keep going and to interview other people. So I've done that, and Joe has been my biggest cheerleader all along, and he hopes one day to be able to be much more involved again. We've had several OCUUC folks on as guests. Sharon Lushin was a guest talking about trauma, and Tracy Doshbach's husband Hugh was on. We had on the musician Spencer LaJoy, who was here last summer. Anyone remember them coming? And Taylor Cox, who played here a few weeks ago, was on. And Catherine Osborne, who's in the nursery right now, came to talk about OCD. And my wife, Jan, has been on several episodes as well. Now we're on episode 103, and we changed the name recently to Unraveling Adoption. Every episode now is tied to adoption somehow. In addition to the podcast, I am almost done getting a certificate for coaching through Sharon Leshin's program at the Virginia Satir Global Network. And my mentor, Miriam Freeman, is here with us today from across the country, so thank you for being here, Miriam. I plan to coach adoptive parents and help them find their own healing path that I wish I had found sooner. Last April, Reverend Sean gave a sermon about following our calling. It really resonated with me. You can blame her for all of this, actually. I never dreamed I would do anything but music in my whole life. Like, I've played piano since I was 3. I went to school for music. I went to master's. Music. It's been my whole career trajectory until now. But now, as you know, I only have a few weeks left at this job that I've loved for the last 22 years. And the reason I needed to shift is because this work in the adoption world has called me. I feel that as an adoptive parent, I have influence over other adoptive parents and community members, and I really want to make a difference in the world. I ultimately want to help adoptees have more congruent and peaceful lives. And that means us adoptive parents and allies acknowledging their grief and loss and allowing them to find their path. I hope this morning's service provides a bit of closure for everyone here as I move from one career to the next. At least now you know why I've been drawn to do something new. And I hope you learned a new nugget about adoption that you will take with you into the community. I'm going to let an adoptee have the last words here. This is from an adoptee named Ferrera Swan. She's a great musician. And this is about the first conversation she had with her birth mother after finding her. The first time I spoke to my biological mother on the phone, I said, "Hello," after a while, because it was silent. "I'm still here," she responded. "I'm just listening to the inflections in your voice." The woman who gave birth to me was letting me know I was being heard, that she was listening to me, and all of a sudden, I felt alive.
With a mind that holds a plan, with a heart that holds a key, with a heart that holds a dream, love reaches out. When a family's torn apart, when the street is all you have, when your faith begins to break, love reaches out. Love reaches out. Love reaches out. Here by your side, bringing you home, love reaches out. Through the pain your eyes have seen, through the voices in your head, through the war you still endure, love reaches out. To the man who asked for change, to the mother and the child, to the elder all alone, love reaches out. Love reaches out. Love reaches out. Here by your side, bringing you home, love reaches out. Let us take this night to strengthen and inspire. Let love and compassion be the source that fuels the fire. If you find yourself in need, if you fear what lies ahead, if we forge a path of trust, love reaches out. Where hope replaces hate, where wounds begin to heal, where we all will have a home, love reaches out. Love reaches out. Love reaches out. Here by your side, bringing you home, love reaches out. Love reaches out. Love reaches out. Here by your side, bringing you home, love reaches out. Here by your side, bringing you home, love reaches out.
Unitarian Universalist congregations are fully self-supporting, meaning that members and friends raise all funds for the operating budget, ministries, and programs of the church. We are ever grateful for your gifts of time, treasure, and talent. OCUUC amplifies that spirit of generosity by sharing one half of the plate we receive with an organization that shares our values. This month, we are supporting Stand Up for Kids. There are multiple ways in which you can support the church and Stand Up for Kids. You can mail a check, you can go through our website, or use an app called Venco Mobile. If you're a roomer, you can also put money in our basket. The choice is yours. All information is on our website should you need it. As always, thank you for your generosity.
And for the second song from that musical by Rich Erlob, it's called Dying to Know. And I believe Rich is in the house on the Zoom. So hello, Rich, if you're here. I think he's here, so I'm so glad that you're here. And very honored to present these two songs. So I don't know if you remember in the first song, I was like, I'm going to keep this a secret. No one will know. So in the play, it's a secret until Joshua here goes to summer camp and kind of through circumstances finds out he was adopted. Ouch. So this song occurs right after he just found out he was adopted. Later on in the song, you'll hear from adult Joshua at the same time. So little reflections, and adult Joshua still has not found his birth mother. So that's what this song is about.
Okay.
They told me I was chosen just like Moses. They fed and clothed and bathed me in their love. And though this family has different noses, they tell me this was planned by God above. But now I hear there is another mother who loved so much she gave her son away. Could I have a sister or a brother? Who can I trust? My world has changed today. What does she look like? Is she okay? Would she remember me if we met today? After she gave me up, where did she go? Someone please tell me. I'm dying to know. My teacher wonders why I can't stop crying. My dad says mow the lawn, go shovel snow. My friends all think calling mom is lying. My mother says that I will never know. I cannot find good words though I am trying to find out why my first mom had to go. If this is mother's love, I feel like dying. Don't ask me to explain, I just need to know. What does she look like? Is she okay? Each year on my birthday, what does she say? If she came to take me home, would I want to go? These are the questions I'm dying to know.
Why must one mother's love be enough when one is true and one a fantasy? Lies and silence make not knowing tough. If somewhere out there someone looks like me,
someday I'll find her. I don't know how.
I don't know how.
I'll search every face I meet. Silent for now.
Silent for now.
What will it cost me?
What will it cost
So
you?
far to go.
So far to go.
While inside I'm dying. I'm dying to know. I'm dying to know.
You're dying to know.
I'm dying to know.
You're dying to. You're dying to. You're dying to know.
I'm dying to know.
Thank you to Chance and Joel and Jolynn, the Ibanez family today for all of that extra work learning those songs. Oh my goodness. All right, now I got to transition into our offertory response here. Okay. Let's sing this song together that puts our intentions into words and expresses our gratitude for the many gifts we share. Gather together, we gather as one for peace, love, and justice for everyone. We give from our hearts to show that we care. We can change lives with what we share.
No, they could have warned me. Now is a time when we honor the important events in our lives. You are invited, one or all, whether you are a member, a friend, or a visitor, to participate in our weekly ritual of joys and sorrows. So let's take a deep breath. Perhaps you come here today holding something close to your heart. Moments from the last days or hours, or 10 minutes, that have struck you at your core. If you'd like to honor such a profound joy or sorrow, you are invited to do so. If you're a roomer, you're invited to come forward to light your candle. If you would like to share your joy or sorrow, you can write it out on the slip of paper provided and hand it to me. Raise your hand and the ushers will bring one to you. If you are a Zoomer, you are invited to write your joy or sorrow in the chat. Once the roomers are done lighting candles, I'll read all the joys and sorrows shared out loud as Judith Stamper lights a candle for the Zoomers. As music is played, I invite you to silently offer healing or celebration as you feel called and according to your own beliefs. Right. So, Miriam Freeman is lighting a candle of celebration for Beth's passion and courage in pursuing her calling to promote healing and growth and peace in the world. John Kaiser has a candle of thanks for the meal train. Your support has made our lives much easier this week. Ralph Holler has a candle of sorrow. He's sad about, I'm sorry, you're going to have to tell me the name. Mfanwi Kaiser's plan on moving. Okay. Candle of joy from Jolene Ibanez. Sweet, sweet Beth, always making our family feel loved, seen, appreciated, and always puts us to our best use. Candle of joy and sorrow from Julie. She says, thank you for sharing, Beth. I am so happy for you, but I'm so sad to see you go. The world needs what you have to share. Chance Ibanez has a candle of joy and sorrow. Beth has been so amazing here, and while I am sad to see her go, I am happy that she is doing what she wants to do. Simone Bentlet has a joy. She's going to fly to Portland, Oregon on August 18th to visit with her family and will especially enjoy her 4 grandchildren. And Dave Carlson has a celebration that he is getting a new part-time job. Last week, he joined the faculty of the Chapman University Business School. And another one came out in the chat, candle of joy for Beth, educating everyone in the love she has for all people. Let us hold in love all the joys and celebrations and all the hurts and sadness, both spoken and silent. Let our joys remind us to be thankful, our concerns remind us to hope, and our sorrows remind us to connect. Let all these moments remind us that we are not alone. Please join Judith Stamper in a spirit of prayer and meditation.
This is from Sarah Eileen Lawal. Spirit of life and love, in the silence, in the stillness, we hear the call of our own heart, its tender dreams, its sorrows, and its triumphs. In the silence, in the stillness, we hear whispers of days gone by, of dreams still becoming the promise of the future. We celebrate together our individual journeys and dreams, and our collective ones, knowing the journey is so much richer with others to share in it. In the name that is holy, we pray. Amen.
Let us join together as we extinguish the flame of our chalice. Say together, we extinguish our chalice, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Thank you for joining us this morning. We are a congregation made up of people who all believe differently. And yet when we gather together, whether we are in the room or on Zoom, we make up one loving community. We need not think alike to love alike. If you are a guest, a visitor, or someone who hasn't yet been known to us, I invite you to become a part of this beloved community. We encourage you to either write in the chat if you are a Zoomer, or if you are a roomer, to stand for a brief moment and tell us your name and where you are from. A microphone will be brought over.
Hello, everyone. My name is Alejandro, and I was born and raised in Chicago, but I've been in Orange County about 5 years. And I've been in search of a community for quite some time now, and Google led me here finally after 5 years. So this is my second day. I was a little shy last week to stand up, but I've enjoyed both last week's sermon and today. So thank you for having me.
Welcome. If you'd like to know more about our church, including programming for our youth and children, please contact us at hello@ocuuc.org and we'll help you get connected. In addition, we invite you to sign up for our weekly email called The Blast at blast@ocuuc.org. We want everyone to feel a part of this beloved community, so please reach out. Significant events, apparently picnic at the park, 8/5 at 10:30. Usually I'm supposed to read these ahead of time so I know what to say. Oh, a chat with Rika, that's nice. I'm gonna try and go for that. I'll skip the women's circle. Anti-racism reading group, I've been meaning to attend that. There's a board meeting. I assume I'm not welcome, but I don't know how it works. And meditation, Sunday, 9:45 a.m. That's all nice things.
I think anyone can come to a board meeting, yes? Yes, everyone's welcome. If you want to go, you can go. For our benediction, I want to lift up words by another adoptee named Anne Heffron. She's a woman who does not mince words, and she wrote a wonderful memoir called You Don't Look Adopted. There. Yeah. She says, adoption taught me how to live in camp suck it up. It also taught me how to run. I've so perfected the art of staying and leaving. I can do both at the same time. Remember, adoption is both. Let's sing ourselves out. Let us go out. This service is over. Let our service continue. And all do our part. Let us go out. With joy to each heart. Let us go out. With indifference destroy. Let us go out with joy. Let us go out. And all do our part. Let us go out. Bring joy to each heart. Let us go out. With indifference destroy. Let us go out with joy. This service is over. Let our service continue. Thank you, everyone.